In episode 5 of The Reva Show, it is revealed during a conversation between Reva and a supporting character named Obi-Wan that Reva joined the Empire as part of an elaborate plot to infiltrate their higher echelons and eventually assassinate Darth Vader as revenge for killing her friends in the attack on the Jedi Temple. This years long assassination plot ultimately boils down to her attempting to stab Vader in the back. No bomb plots or attempt to strike at him when he is most vulnerable while he's bathing. No programming his shuttle to fly into his sun or anything. Just get him distracted and stab him in the back. Oh, and hope that no one else is around to stop it. In order to get herself into a position of sufficient trust and authority within the Empire to take her shot at Vader, she commits torture, murder, collective punishments, mutilations, infanticide, terrorism against innocent locals, and generally aids in the destruction of the remaining Jedi. She engages in all of this activity with the enthusiasm of a vicious psychopath and the ambition of a sociopathic corporate careerist. But it's all a ruse. One day, when Vader is defeated, Reva can return to the village where she chopped off that woman's hand, explain that it was done in the service of the higher good of justice for some long dead kids, and all will be forgiven. They will embrace, and no harm done. Now, we know that Reva's plan is insane. The idea that you're going to get revenge against an evil infanticidal imperialist traitor by becoming an evil infanticidal imperialist traitor is, of course, crazy and evil. So, why would the showrunners include such a totally absurd plot into the show? Because the showrunners are woke. And from a leftist perspective, Reva's actions make perfect sense. Above all other forms of justice, leftists value justice for those they consider oppressed, what they call social justice. And this justice does not stop at the living, it includes the dead, and justice for the past in general. And very importantly, it does not matter if innocent people suffer in the pursuit of justice for those who are the most oppressed. People are losing their jobs, businesses, and access to goods and services because a DA refuses to prosecute shoplifting. It doesn't matter. Those so called shoplifters are only doing that because they are in need, and their right to basic sustenance, to justice, comes before the basic economic and property rights of law abiding citizens. A city's streets and parks are covered in human shit, and dirty needles make the place unlivable. It doesn't matter. Junkies and homeless are an oppressed group, and their access to open squatting and drug use, to justice, is more important than local residents' quality of life. Women getting raped in prison because female identifying male convicts are allowed in their prison, it doesn't matter. Transgenders are an oppressed group, and their right to be imprisoned in a facility that matches their gender identity to justice comes before a female prisoner's health, safety, and bodily and sexual sovereignty. A bunch of innocent people get killed, mutilated, maimed, tortured, and traumatized in an elaborate plot to take revenge against a war criminal. It doesn't matter. Their suffering is secondary to the greater goal of justice for the victims of the war criminal. If you're a normal person looking at Reva's plot, you think, this is insane, and Reva is a crazy person who needs to be stopped before she destroys any more lives. But if you're woke, like the kind of people writing this crap, you see Reva's actions as part of a noble crusade for justice and a brave attack against a force of oppression and patriarchy, and you expect that others will see it that way too, and that Reva will be hailed as the heroine she was always meant to be. Obi-Wan will be outshone by a new hero, and she will ride off into her rightful place in the culture as a much-loved character who deserves a second Disney Plus Reva series, one without the distraction of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Lucasfilm don't choose to see Reva's plot as a crusade for justice. That's just naturally how they see it. Lucasfilm is now so soaked in and poisoned by wokeness that they no longer understand basic morality. They have lost the ability to distinguish right from wrong, and this is reflected in their characters and story decisions. I would draw a comparison between Lucasfilm and the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union produced almost no great art, with, of course, the notable exception of their production of Lord of the Rings, an anti film masterpiece. The reason the USSR was so culturally barren was because all art had to conform to ideological standards, and non political art was considered a bourgeois decadence. The modern woke equivalent of this kind of Soviet mindset is that silence is violence. If you're not fighting the system, you are the system. Sports can't be sports. They must be political spectacle, and movies and TV must be a vehicle for representation, diversity, inclusion, and positive messaging. Propaganda terms meaning diversity hires less white men and brainwashing. Lucasfilm has become culturally Sovietized, and in this atmosphere of stifled creativity where all creative decisions must take place within a woke framework, It is impossible to create anything that isn't complete shit, which explains why we get things like Reva's plan and profoundly shit TV like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Thanks for listening, subscribe, and don't forget to hatch a convoluted, decades long plot to assassinate the like button.